must go down, and he must go down hard.
Now, of course, like we did on the offensive side that we did last week, we going over the defensive side of the ball. Raiders finished 28th overall in yards per game, a steep decline from last season where we finished about middle of the road. A lot of issues with this team and a lot of holes we're going to get to. And the first one, of course, we're going to talk about and what you want to talk about is defensive tackle. It just makes sense. This has been an area of issue, an area of need for quite some time. And the big thing we've needed is some interior pass rush. Let's get to our options here at defensive tackle. Let's talk first about free agents. Now, of course, this could very well change if players are franchise tagged. I'm going to start with Javon Hargrave, an absolute stud. He has been for quite some time now. And I'm thinking they're going to let him go. They're either going to keep him or Fletcher Cox. I'm thinking they're going to keep Cox. It's going to be a little bit cheaper for them. But he comes with a high price tag, and I'm estimating $18 million. I believe SpotTrack.com has him at almost $20 million. I'm not so sure if he's going to get that much money, but I think $18 million is probably fairly realistic. Next one is Dalvin Tomlinson. I talked about this guy 2 years ago, possibly being a replacement for us. A guy who was in the Giants system. So some familiarity with Patrick Graham. Solid player. He's going to get you anywhere 3 to 4 sacks a year. He disrupts. He can get in there. Plays the run decently. The price tag is going to be commensurate with that. Of course, Hargrave's going to demand a top dollar. Tomlinson's going to be a lot cheaper. Not quite as good, obviously. Same thing with Sheldon Rankins. Kind of similar stats, similar type of game. Rankins is a little bit smaller, but he is disruptive. Now, you could say, well, that could be a product of the New York Jets system. That's going to demand around $7 million to pick him up. And then I wanted to go over some of the players in the draft. Of course, Jalen Carter's demanding probably a top 5 pick. That's why I put an asterisk here. Can kind of do everything. I don't see us moving up just to get this guy, and I don't think he's going to fall to 7. If he did, that would be an absolute steal. Kind of like Micah Parsons last year. Next guy is Brian Bresee. Had an issue with his ACL in 2021. Came back pretty well. Not just that, something with his kidneys this season. He had some off the field issues with some family members. I'm not going to get too far into that, but kind of shows his character. He's a good character guy, very versatile, but might be a little too injury prone, especially to be taking him at number 7. And then we have Kalisha Cansey from Pittsburgh. A lot of people are high on this guy. He basically lives in the backfield. He's done that. Big disruptor, not only in the passing game, but also in the run game. My issue is, might be a little too small. He's only 6 foot, 280, but you know, Aaron Donald wasn't the biggest guy either. Siaki Ika, this big kid from Baylor, holy mackerel, 6'4", listed at 355, probably closer to 370. A lot of people were thinking that maybe he would take a jump, kind of like Jordan Davis did the year before. Not so much, and it's kind of weird because you would expect a guy this big would be pretty good at the run. His mainstay is more of the pass rush. Knock on this guy, though, is a lot of people say he's inconsistent. He takes plays off. It'll be very interesting to see this kid at the combine, especially what Jordan Davis did. I think there was kind of some similar issues with Jordan Davis last year before the combine, and he kind of proved him wrong. So I'm wondering if he's going to kind of pull the same thing and get into that first round. Right now, currently projected in the second round. So those are some of the options that we have at defensive tackle, both in the draft and in free agency. If the next area I want to talk about, of course, would be cornerback. Rock Ya-Sin is all we basically had coming into the season as far as an outside corner. Then he went down. We basically were just kind of picking guys up off the scrap heap. We really need some players here. Here are the 2 major free agents that are coming out here. Marcus Peters, James Bradbury. Marcus Peters, of course, if you're a Raiders fan, you know this name. Mr. Crotch Grabbing on his pick 6, if you remember that. And that kind of goes towards his attitude. Very good player, huge attitude. Can this Raiders team keep a hold of him? I'm saying he's going to go for about $12 million. SpotTrack says he's about 10. Came back from an injury, a little bit off. I only had 1 interception last year. Maybe we could give him a little cheaper. And the next one is James Bradbury, of course, Philadelphia. A lot of talk about him last season coming here with Patrick Graham, of course, another Giants guy, a very solid corner. Obviously, he had 2 interceptions in that game 2 seasons ago against the Raiders, looking very good. Saying about $10 million it would take to secure him, and why not come back to Patrick Graham? And then I just went over 3 possible cornerbacks that we could draft relatively early. We'd have to use an early pick here. Witherspoon, consensus number 1. Of course, that could change by the time we get to the draft. My kind of knock on this guy is he's relatively small, 6 foot, 180. He is ranked 12th on PFF. Had a big jump last year in his third season, 92 grade. Kind of do it all. Some knocks on him about is his hips. Can he keep up with a quicker NFL game? I'm not so sure if we should burn a high pick with a guy like that. And then we have two guys that are a lot more comparable, and that's Christian Gonzalez, Oregon, Joey Porter of Penn State. Both bigger kids, 6'2", about 200 pounds, more physical type of press guys. Of course, Joey Porter is the son of Joey Porter, the linebacker from Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, not as big as his dad, but kind of plays with that same kind of attitude that his dad had. Christian Gonzalez, same thing with Oregon. I think those two guys could be a possibility. Again, I think at 7th, that's a little too high unless we trade down and maybe do that, but you never know what the Raiders are going to do. Third hole that I feel we need to fill is, of course, at linebacker. It's been a while now. Denzel Perryman, like I said, he's an unrestricted free agent. He's on the top of my list. I think he's a great middle linebacker, of course, Pro Bowl guy. I'm not going to say he's great at defending the pass. Of course not. That's not his game. His game is sniffing out the run, feeling the gaps. And you could tell with the Raiders' run defense, when he was hurt, it was night and day. You could tell the difference. Like I said in my salary cap video, if we can get him at $8.5 million, I like that. I think that's fair. If we can't get Perryman, Levante David's probably the best middle linebacker out there right now. I'm thinking it's going to be about 10 to 12 million to get him. And then we got some options here. Trenton Simpson, consensus #1 linebacker. I think that we definitely should not draft a linebacker in the first round. And then we have Drew Sanders here. This kid from Alabama, he started as an edge rusher. They moved him out to outside linebacker, so you can get another presence here. He might be better suited in a 3-4 type of linebacker. Extremely talented, can rush the passer. And next to him, I'm a little bit excited about Jack Campbell and Demarion Overshown. Let's talk about Jack Campbell first. Big kid, 6'5", 246, kind of built as a middle linebacker to play this game. Very, very solid tackler. Pretty good in pass coverage, that short pass coverage. Not going to get a whole lot of pass rush out of the guy, but he's kind of more of an old school type of guy. Sniff it out. If we can't get Perryman, get this guy in the middle rounds, I think we'd be just fine. Now, Demarion Overshown from Texas. If you don't know this guy, this kid is like a physical freak. 6'4", 224, can run laterally. He can rush the passer. Very good at the run defense as well, sniffing it out. I think he could be very versatile as well. You can put him in or out, even if we do keep Perryman. The knock with him is the way he tackles. He doesn't wrap up. He needs a little bit more fundamentals. It's probably why he's going in the middle rounds. Otherwise, he'd probably be going a lot higher. And I just had to show this because I did the similar type of thing last season. I got to show this, guys. Now, this is a screenshot of my presentation last season of holes we need to fill. Something look familiar, guys? Defensive tackle, cornerback, linebacker. We finished the season 14th overall. Now we finished 28th. So what the hell is going on here? This defense has regressed. Quite frankly, it's kind of worrying me.
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing: just win, baby.